To Morning Flow. We'll get going in about 5 minutes, grabbing your water bottle, your mat, whatever else you need to flow this morning. And we'll see you real soon. All right, well, let's get going. Uh, we will come to a seat, but let's start standing right now. So I'm going to invite you to find your stance, whatever that stance is. A wide stance for more foundation. Challenging that foundation, you can find a narrower stance. However you choose to stand, from your feet, finding your legs, from your legs, finding your spine. Relax shoulders. I'll invite you to bring your hands to your heart with a slight tuck of the chin as we start to bring our attention inward. And I'll invite you to start our practice this morning just by watching your breath as it flows in and as it flows out, arriving here on our yoga mats, ready for a morning yoga practice. From this place of just watching your breath, I'll invite you to shape your breath as you find a long, slow inhalation, matched by a long, slow exhalation. As you breathe in, I'll invite you to find a full body breath, bringing the air to the top of the chest, the base of the belly, filling up each side waist. And as you breathe out, I'll encourage you to draw the low belly in and up towards the heart, to squeeze a little more air out, also providing structural support for a low back in any of these shapes, in any of these sequences. To this deeper, fuller breath, moving towards the Ujjayi or ocean breath, a slight constriction of the base of the throat, adding a slight sound and feel to your breath. And as we flow through our practice this morning, letting the sound and feel of the Ujjayi breath be a focus for your practice, always coming back to that sound and feel, often compared to the sound and feel of the waves of the ocean as those waves wash in and as those waves wash out. To this Ujjayi breath, I'll invite you to find Jiva Bandha, tip of the tongue to the hard palate just behind the teeth, sometimes called the tongue loop. Trying to keep that connection throughout the practice, keeping us from clenching our jaws and grinding our teeth, something I know I do when I'm working hard, or at least tend to do. And once I notice it, I relax my jaw, I stop grinding my teeth, and I find that tongue to hard palate connection. One more thing here. Lips closed, slight smile to your face, opening up the front of your throat so your breath has lots of room to circulate, refresh, and revitalize. From this place, let's come to a seat, and if you're at home, I'll invite you to grab a pillow. And if you don't have a pillow, you could always bunch up a jacket, fold up a blanket, and to be honest, depending on how open your hips are, you may not need a pillow at all. I do like the pillow though, because it gives me the ability to anterior tilt my pelvis, tilt it a little bit forward so it faces down. That way I find a little more space in my lumbar spine. Finding a cross-legged sit. Traditionally, right leg's in a little bit closer, left leg out a little bit further. For the purposes of anatomical symmetry, we'll change that up. But if there is a default sit, it would be right leg in a little bit closer, left leg out a little bit further. Let me move back just a little bit so y'all can see that. As we sit, trying to find that anterior tilt, so you want to try to find the front of your sits bones, as we find a little bit of space in the lumbar spine. Once you find the front of the sits bones, keeping that space in the lumbar spine, we can come back to the center of the sits bones. Pressing into the center of the sits bones as we sit up a little straighter, a little taller. Again, I'll invite you to find a slight tuck of the chin as we bring our attention inward. And coming back to that Ujjayi breath, watching as it flows in and out. From here, lifting the chin tall through the crown, let's bring one hand by one hip, other hand finds a thigh. Let an inhale grow your spine tall, and then finding a twist. Either keeping your gaze forward, off to the side, or looking over that back shoulder. As we hold this twist, with every inhale, sitting up a little taller. With every exhale, twisting, even if it's twisting a little bit more, even if it's just at an energetic level. Now letting an inhale bring you back center, and we'll find that twist the other way. Other hand by other hip, other hand catches other thigh. Let your inhale grow your spine tall, and then finding your twist. And then finding a drishti or eye focus that works for you, either straight ahead, off to the side, or over that back shoulder. And that can be relatively fluid. You could start looking forward, off to the side, over back shoulder. If that's too much, you could just back off, finding your twist. Now letting your inhale bring you through center. Hands on our thighs, take a breath to sit tall. And then we'll bring other hand, but other hip, let's find a side bend. So we're gonna lift other hand high, any amount. We'll lean to one side, find a little more weight on that sits bone, and then keep the hand where it is as you slide the other sits bone back down. And then holding this for a couple of breaths as we find a little more space between each rib. And breathing into that space. Now letting an inhale bring you through center, and let's find that side bend the other way. Grounding down through a hand, other hand high. We'll lean to one side as we heavy that sits bone, and then keep the hand where it is as you heavy the other sits bone back down, so equal weight in both sits bones. And then just holding as we breathe into our ribs. Letting your inhale bring you through center. Let's bring hands on our thighs again. And let's do some torso rotations. And we'll start small and get a little bit bigger. So staying equally weighted through two sits bones as we rotate our torso. Really connecting with our center. And after 3 or 4 times, starting to shift the weight between the sits bones as we circle. And then lots of options, either keeping back ahead in line with sacrum, or maybe started adding a little back bend and a little rounding of the spine as we rotate. Starting to connect with our water element. And let's do one more time. And then back to center, grounded down through our sits bones, back of the head in line with the sacrum as we sit tall and breathe. And let's take those torso rotations the other way, again starting small and then getting bigger. Initially starting with equal weight through both sits bones and then shifting the weight between the sits bones. Initially starting with neutral or tall spine, and if it feels right and good for you, starting to add a little arcing and arching at the back as we rotate. And let's do one more. And then back to center, sitting tall. From here, let's take it into a forward fold. And I like to use spider fingers here. So we can bring our fingers in front. And you can't see my fingers, but I'm walking them forward, leading with the heart, a little bit of an arc to the back. And then either working with neutral spine, back ahead in line with sacrum, or rounding the back as we paste the palms down. Breathing into our hips, relaxing our shoulders. And then from flat palms, let's come back to spider fingers. We'll spider our fingers back in as we reclaim tall spine. From here, let's work with our shoulders a little bit as we roll one shoulder front and then the other. One more time this direction. And then rolling other shoulder back, other shoulder front, or reversing direction here. And let's do one more. And then two shoulders solidly on rib shelf. Let's do one more thing with this cross of the legs as we warm up our neck by looking up and down. Up and down. As we work this exercise, I'll invite you to consider a tennis ball in front and a tennis ball in back, and you're lengthening up and over the circumference of each ball. So even though we're working flexion with our neck, we're not losing any space in our cervical spine. Cervical spine is neck spine. And let's do one more neck each direction. The next time you look up, I'll invite you to hold that stretch as we enjoy a nice stretch in the base of the throat. And then finding a tuck of the chin without compressing the neck in any way, and then holding that as we stretch out the back of the neck. And then coming back center, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, ears, shoulders, hips over sits bones as we sit tall and breathe. From here, let's switch the cross of the legs. So now, for me, left leg's in a little bit closer, right leg's out a little bit further. Taking a breath to find that little anterior tilt to the spine, or anterior tilt to the pelvis rather, so front of the sits bones. Feeling that sense of space in the lumbar spine, and then rocking back to the exact center of the sits bones. Keeping that sense of space in the lumbar spine as we sit up tall and breathe, and without losing any space in the neck, a slight tuck of the chin. As we turn our attention inward. Just watching as we breathe. Now lifting the chin tall through the crown, neutral spine. Let's find our twist as you bring hand by hip. Other hand catches the thigh. Let that first inhale grow your spine tall. And then finding your twist. Again, finding a place to work that works for your neck, that works for your cervical spine, thoracic spine. Now letting your inhale bring you through center, and we'll take that twist the other way. Rounding on down through a hand by the hip, hand catches the thigh, let your inhale grow your spine tall, and then finding your twist. Holding for 2 or 3 long, slow breaths. Now letting your inhale bring you through center, 2 hands find the thighs, let your inhale find your tall sit. And then we'll take that side bend to each side. So hand on the floor, we'll lift other hand high, we'll heavy that sits bone next to the hand on the floor, and then we'll heavy that other sits bone back down as we stretch out side waist, and then holding for a couple of breaths as you breathe into your ribs. Letting your next inhale bring you through center. We'll find that side bend the other way, grounding on down through a hand, other hand high, heavying that sits bone next to the hand on the floor, and then re-heavying that far sits bone down, and then holding for a couple of breaths as you breathe into your ribs. Letting your inhale bring you through center. We'll bring hands onto our thighs as we find our tall spine. From this place, we'll start those torso rotations, starting small and then getting bigger. So keeping neutral spine initially, equal weight through both sits bones. And then starting to shift the weight between the sits bones as those circles get bigger. And then from neutral spine, I'll invite you to start to add the arc and the arching. So we're leading with the heart as we come forward. We tuck the chin and lead with the back of the heart as you draw it back. Feeling super loose, super liquid. Let's do one more time this direction. And then back to center, establishing tall spine, and then starting those torso rotations the other way. Starting small and then getting bigger as we rock from side to side. Starting with neutral or tall spine and then adding the arcing and arching of the back. And let's do one more time this way. And then back to center, finding tall spine, finding our spider fingertips. We'll spider ourselves forward, leading with the heart, maybe a little bit of arc to the back, passing through neutral spine and either staying there or pasting the palms down as we round the spine and just taking 2 or 3 long, slow breaths into our back, into our hips. And then spidering those fingers back, as we reclaim tall spine, hands on our thighs. From here, let's find two straight legs in front. And we were sitting cross-legged for quite a while here, so let's give our knees a little bit of a solid here. So we've got one knee, we've got a hand on each side, just warming up that knee with our hands. Now let your fingers, your spider fingertips, find the back of the knee, just opening up that place, connecting with one of our unseen parts. How often do you get to have this experience with the back of your knee? And let's bring a hand onto the kneecap and just give the kneecap a little wiggle. Welcome connective tissue to our knee. Thank you so much for all you do. And then we'll bring hands to other knee, just warming it up. And then letting those spider fingertips find the back of the knee. And then we'll give that kneecap a little wiggle. Thank you, connective tissue. Yes. From this place, let's find an all fours position. I want to make sure I'm in the frame here. So if we bring that pillow off to the side. Let's see. Let me go sideways. And I'm in frame. I'm centered here. This way. Yeah. All fours position. We've got our neutral spine. I've got my feet unfurled, so the tops of the toes are down. From here, let's start a cat-dog stretch. So tucking toes, tucking tail, tucking chin as I round the spine, and then arcing the back as I unfurl the feet, lifting chin and tail as I arc the back. And just back and forth between the two places. Coordinating with the breath, we can inhale as we arc, exhale as we arch. Now let's add on. Breathing in, lifting chin and tail. Big toes touch. We send sits bones back to the heels as we round the spine. And let's do that a few times. Breathing in, finding the arc. Exhaling as we draw it back into the arch. So let's add side to side motion. Breathing in, lifting chin and tail, and then drawing it back towards one heel as we start to explore the diagonals of the back. So breathing in, lifting chin and tail. On the exhale, drawing it back. Inhaling, lifting up. Exhaling, drawing it back. Now let's throw a figure 8 into the mix. Breathing in, coming up center, drawing it back to a heel. Keep the hips low. We'll find that other heel. Up on the other diagonal, shifting shoulders and hips. And back to first heel. A couple more times in this direction. Breathing in. And breathing out, drawing it back. Inhaling, lifting up. Exhaling, drawing it back. And let's take that figure 8 the other way. Up on the other diagonal, shifting shoulders and hips, and back to second heel. 2 more times. Last one this direction. And then back to center. I'll invite you to walk the hands just a little bit front. And I'm not sure if I'll go there. I had a bike accident about a week and a half ago. I'm not sure if I want to bear weight on my shoulders. Most of you at home do know the down dog shape. So I'm going to invite you to get to that down dog shape with the cat dog stretch. Breathing in, lifting chin and tail. On the exhale, tucking the toes. You're going to push into the hands as you lift the knees, finding your down dog shape. As you hold your down dog shape, I'll invite you to Walk the dog from side to side, just stretching it out, seeing how your bodies feel this morning. What feels tight, what feels right, what feels somewhere in between. From this place of movement in your down dog, I'll invite you to move back towards stillness. Long arms, long legs, long spine, deep, full breath. Hello, Sean. Hello, Lori. Those of you in the down dog shape, I'll invite you to bend the knees ever so slightly to lift your tailbone just a little bit higher, finding a little more space in that lumbar spine. And then looking between the hands as you mindfully make your way to the front of your mat. Once at the front of your mat, I'll invite you to find the arc to the spine. Hands find the thighs, lifting chin and tail, rounding the spine as we fold. So it's the cat-dog stretch. Inhaling, finding neutral spine, back of the head in line with the sacrum, arms out to the side, hinging at the hips as we rise on up, hands overhead, and then on the exhale, hands by our side. I'll invite you to bring your hands to your heart, either keeping a light press of your palms as your weight gathers in your feet, or adding an isometric engagement as we press the palms together, elbows wide, shoulders engaged. I'll invite you to tuck the tail and tuck the chin as we find strength in our center. And then hands by our side. So I'm going to cue Surya Namaskar because of the bike accident. I'm not going to actually do that with you, but most of my students know the sequence. Hands over head pose, forward fold, we find a little more length as we look up. We ground down through the hands, we take it back to down dog. Or you'll find a push-up, inhaling into up dog, and then back to down dog. Another option might be a child's pose, always finding that measure, or that balance between your effort and your ease. Surya Namaskar. Inhaling, arms up overhead. Exhaling, leading with the heart as we fold. Rounding the spine in our forward fold. Take a breath to lift chin and tail as we arc. On the exhale, we're going to fold again. Now grounding down through your hands, either taking it back to down dog or finding chaturanga, the yoga push-up. Inhaling into yoga back bend, could be a cobra, hips stay down, or lifting up the hips as you find your up dog. And then stretching it back to down dog and holding for 3 to 5 breaths. And again, child's pose is always another great option. Wherever you choose to work, always working with your breath, and that's what makes it yoga. The breath is the bridge between the mind and our body, and that bridge is always there, whether we're paying attention to it or not. But when we pay attention to it, we really establish that connection, or at least that awareness of the connection that's always there. From down dog, long, smooth breath in. Long, smooth breath out. Tail into that breath, looking between your hands as you step, or maybe some of y'all take a jump to the front of your mat. Take a breath to find length when you arrive. On the exhale, fold. Inhaling, riding the breath up. Exhaling, standing tall. Let's do one more Surya Namaskar. Inhaling into hands over head pose, Urdhva Hastasana. On the exhale, folding. Take a breath to find length as we arc. On the exhale, arching as we fold. Grounding down through your hands, either finding your down dog, cycling through vinyasa, or maybe sneaking in that child's pose right off the bat. Again, always balancing effort with ease. The Sanskrit words are stira and sukha. Stir sounds like stirring it up, which is the effort. Sukha sounds like sugar, and that's your ease, that sugary sweetness and our relaxation or our letting go. Learning how to surrender, just as important as learning how to effort. From down dog, long smooth breath in. Long, smooth breath out. Tail into that breath, looking between your hands as you step or take a jump front. Take a breath to find length when you arrive. On the exhale, folding. Inhaling, neutral spine, hinging at the hips, arms out to the side and then overhead. On the exhale, hands by our side. Again, I'll invite you to bring hands to heart, either keeping that light press of the palms as your weight collects in your feet, or adding that isometric engagement as we press the palms together, adding that tuck of the tail, that tuck of the chin, as we find the strength of our center. And then hands by our side. So let's do one Surya Namaskar B. Again, you'll do most of the work, I'll just cue it, but I'll start with you all as we inhale into our chair pose. In our chair, adding an extra breath, taking it a little bit lower. On the inhale, rising on up, invite you to find a little back bend at the top, open heart, open throat. On the exhale, a big swan dive over. Take a breath to lift chin and tail, and then on the exhale, folding as we ground down through the hands and making your way to down dog as you will, either cycling through vinyasa or stretching straight back. Letting your breath make the call as to how fast you move. I'll give you a few breaths to do that. From down dog, flow style, big toes touch, heels slightly apart. I'll invite you to lift the right leg high to the sky, high on the left toes for a three-legged dog. And then looking between the hands, bringing that right foot on through, landing it lightly as we spin the back heel down. Hands can always find the hips as we find our balance. And then arms up and over the head for our warrior one. And then on your next exhale, spinning the palms out, finding low lunge as we spin that back heel up. And then back to down dog as you will. And again, you're doing all the work here. I'm just cueing you all through it. And you guys, if you've practiced with me before, you know the sequence. It's pretty much Ashtanga yoga with a small a. When you're ready for that second side, big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Left leg high to the sky for your three-legged dog, high on the right toes. Now looking between the hands, bringing that left foot on through, landing it lightly as we spin the back heel down. Back leg long, back leg strong. Hands can always find the hips. And then up and over the head for your warrior one. And then spinning the palms out, finding low lunge as we ground down through those hands. I'm not going that low. And then back to down dog as you will, either cycling through vinyasa, stretching straight back, or maybe sneaking a child's pose in instead. Beauty of the flow practice is we do have the opportunity to improvise, and the beauty of a home practice with the video guidance is no one's looking. You can do whatever you want. These are all suggestions. And wherever you do choose to work, watching your breath and enjoying that meditation upon your breath. From down dog, long smooth breath in, long smooth breath out. Tail into that breath, looking between your hands as you step or maybe take a jump front. Take a breath to find length when you arrive. On the exhale, folding. On the inhale, stay low. We'll come back to our chair, knees over toes, hands over head. Exhaling, taking it lower. On the inhale, rising on up. On the exhale, neutral spine. I'll invite you to bring hands to heart, either working that light press of the palms as your weight collects in your feet, or adding that isometric engagement as we connect with the strength of our center. And then hands by our side. So let's either step or jump our feet hip width apart. Favorite exercise, I'll probably go small here. If you want to go bigger, certainly feeling free to go bigger. As we inhale the arms out to the side, On the exhale, we're going to cross the hands in front as we bend the knees. So inhale up and exhale. Let's do a few of these. And let's do 3 more. Both sides, of course. One more each way. And then up and hands by our side. Let's bring hands on hips. Let's shift our weight onto the right foot. And I'll invite you to, let me go backwards a little bit here so you can see. So people's hips work different ways. We all have different shaped hips, thank gosh. So traditionally in yoga, the toes face straight ahead. For some people's hips, that's totally fine. You don't want to feel any tension on the outside of the hip or the inside of the hip. For me, when I do that, I feel a little tension on the outside of the hip. So to relieve that tension, I'm going to turn the toes out just a tad. Notice if I turn the toes out a lot, I start to feel tension on the inner thigh. I want to stop short of that. So I just want to find a very easeful place for my hip. From here, let's move towards a tree pose. And let's just do an unassisted tree today. So to do a thigh tree, you'd have to reach down and catch your foot with your thighs, most of us. If you want to do that, certainly feeling free. Otherwise, we'll do an unassisted tree. We find either a kickstand, resting our heel on ankle knob, or we bring the foot, onto our calf. From here, we can keep hands on hips, or hands can find the heart. Either keeping hands on heart, or we stretch those hands high to the sky. If it feels like you're a little wobbly here, I'll invite you to wiggle those fingers. Those fingers are the twigs to our tree, our arms are the branches. Our body is the trunk. High hands can come back to the heart. Hard hands can become hip hands. We can swing this left thigh front, we can lift the left thigh high, the toe points down. Either staying right here, balancing on one foot, or we lean a little bit forward to draw energy into our center of balance, 3 fingers below the navel, and then we go long through that leg. Soft point to the toe. Lifting that leg a little higher. And then we're going to swing it on through. Now, if you need to touch the toe down, no worries. As we come to Warrior One prep, let me go sideways here for the visual. So I've got left foot back, right foot front. I want to work this right knee so it stays over the heel and tracking with the toes. I want to find a length of stance where I start to feel some sensation in my thighs, not so much sensation that I'm anxious to come out of the shape. Back hip's going to be high and back. So that's going to be the back leg. Front hip's going to be front and low. So even though we're not going to square my hips perfectly front, I'm going to lower the back hip and steer it front. I'm going to raise the front hip and steer it back. Excuse me. From here, I can bring hands onto my shoulders, reminding my shoulders to stay relaxed as I steer my heart front. From here, finding a clasp of the fingers behind the head, and I'm going to press my head into my hands, elbows wide out to the side, open heart, open throat. From here, I'm going to stretch my hands high to the sky. From here, adding breath and movement, straightening the front leg without locking the knee, breathing in as I gather up the energy on the exhale back or to this letter W shape. Let's do that a few times. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And let's do 3 more. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. 1 more to go. Breathing in, breathing out, and holding this shape. And this is a great go-to shape anytime during your day when you feel like you need a little more space in the front of your heart, finding these cactus arms. From here, let's turn warrior one into warrior two. As hands find the heart, I open up the hips to face side wall or front. I can work that back foot in a little bit. So traditionally in warrior one, we have heel to heel alignment. Warrior two, we have heel to arch alignment. But again, if that's too tippy, feel free to work your standing poses a little wider. From here, one long arm looking out over those front fingers with a steady yet relaxed gaze. From here, painting rainbows. I'm going to straighten the front leg without locking the knee. Palm faces back, inhaling. On the exhale, back to warrior two. And let's do that a few times. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Inhaling and exhaling. Let's do two more. Breathing in, breathing out. Last one. Breathing in, breathing out, warrior two. Now moving towards the triangle pose. Thumb and forefinger find crease of hip and base of rib. I'm going to deepen that crease as we lengthen those ribs. I'm going to ground bottom hand down in an appropriate place. If I use the knee, which I'm doing this morning, I want to make sure I'm not bending the knee backwards. You want to push the knee into the hand. From here, I can set that top shoulder. I can stretch that hand high to the sky, either looking down to the ground, off to the side, or up past those top fingers with that mixture of effort and ease. As we hold the triangle with every breath in, I'll invite you to breathe in to your center of balance, 3 fingers below the navel. And every time you breathe out, sending energy out through 2 arms, 2 legs, both ends of the spine, as you make yourselves bigger in space. So those of you that know my sequences, I'm going to cue you through it. Again, you'll be doing all the work. I'm just going to cue you through it. Either staying in your triangle or moving towards your half moon. Hand finds the hip. We step the back foot in. We take that right hand and setting our base. And I'll suggest a nice wide base is going to be more stable than a narrower base. So if you're new to the pose, choose the wide base. If you're more accomplished, you might play with a narrower base. It should challenge your balance. From here, that hand can stretch high to the sky if appropriate. You can either look down to the ground, very grounding, off to the side, or up to the sky. And you can do all 3. It could be a very fluid process. And again, as we hold our half moon, if you've chosen that option, with every breath in, finding your center of balance, and from that place in the very center of yourself, getting bigger in space as you send energy out through 2 arms, 2 legs, both ends of the spine. Those of you that chose the half moon option, coming out very carefully and very slowly, I'll invite you to bring top hand back to the hip. We can bend the standing leg, back foot low. 2 feet find the floor. We shift the weight into the 2 feet as we lift that front hand, coming back to our warrior 2 shape. From warrior 2 shape, I'll invite you to windmill the arms as you find your low lunge, spinning back heel up. And from there, back to down dog as you will. And again, y'all are doing all the work this morning. I'm still working with my injury, which thank gosh is healing quite nicely. When you're ready to move on from the down dog shape, a slight bend to the knees as you lift the tailbone a little higher. And then looking between the hands as you mindfully make your way front. Taking a breath to find length when you arrive. Exhaling, folding. On the inhale, stay low. We'll come back to our chair. Exhaling, taking it lower. Inhaling, rising on up. On the exhale, neutral spine. I'll invite you to bring hands to your heart, either working that light press of the palms or adding that isometric engagement. and then hands by our side. So we go a little bit farther back. We'll do that sequence on our second side. So hands find the hips as we shift weight onto our left foot, and then finding an angle of toes. So you don't want any stress on the inner thigh, no stress on the outer hip. So I'm going to turn my toes out just a tad. Now your hips could work very different from mine. I'm a guy, obviously. Women's hips are very different. So my daughter and my wife actually prefer straight toes. So your hips could work that way. I think it might have to do the women's hips tend to be a little bit wider. So the straight toe position is a more easeful position because you've got a natural ease because you've got a wider, more stable base in those hips. But who knows? Shifting weight onto that left foot. Working an unassisted tree, that's what my suggestion this morning. If you want to do the thigh tree and reach down and catch the foot, go for it. So either working the ankle knob or the calf. Either keeping hands on hips or hands find the heart. Either keeping hands at heart or stretching hands high. And again, if it feels a little wobbly, try wiggling those fingers, those little finger twigs. Arms are our branches, our body's the trunk. Connecting with your innate ancient wisdom. I'm going to be a redwood tree this morning. High hands become heart hands. Heart hands become hip hands. I'm going to swing this right thigh front. Lift the thigh a little bit higher, the toe faces down. And either staying here or leaning just a little bit forward as I go along through that leg. Lifting that leg just a little higher. Now I'm going to sweep the foot through. If you need to touch down, no big deal. As we find warrior one prep. And it doesn't have to be all at once. I can find that heel to heel alignment. Back hip steers forward and up. Front hip steers back and down. And you're not going to square those hips perfectly, but that energetic action, we start to stretch some of the smaller structures in our hips, structures that don't often get stretched when we sit and do all the other stuff we generally do with our hips. From here, we can bring hands under our shoulders, just relaxing those shoulders and steering the heart front. Now, finding the other clasp of the fingers, we can press our head into our hands, open heart, open throat, and then stretching those hands high to the sky. And then with the breath, breathing in and breathing out. And we'll do 6 of these. Breathing in and breathing out. I'll invite you to consider pulling silk threads. We don't want to tear those threads. 3 more to go. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Let's do 1 more for good measure. Breathing in, breathing out, and holding. And again, this is a great go-to shape. You all stay in the shape. I'll just demo. Many of us now are on computers, we're on our phones, we're behind the wheel of a car. So when you feel that closing in of heart and throat chakra, 4th and 5th chakra, reopening as we find these cactus arms. From here, hands find the heart. We can open up those hips. We might narrow the stance just a tad for heels to arch alignment. And then finding 1 long arm, looking out over those front fingers with that mixture of effort and ease. From here, painting rainbows. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. We'll do 6. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. 2 more to go. Breathing in, breathing out. Last one. Breathing in, breathing out. Now transitioning to triangle, thumb and forefinger, find crease of hip and base of rib. Deepening that crease, lengthening those ribs. Finding an appropriate place to bring that bottom hand down. If you choose the knee, make sure your knee's pushing into your hand as your hand pushes onto the knee. We can set that shoulder. We can stretch hand high, either looking down to the ground, off to the side, or up to the sky with that mixture of effort and ease. Again, as we hold the shape with every breath in, finding your center of balance. With every breath out, getting yourself bigger in space from that place in the very center of yourself. As we hold the triangle, connecting with your breath as we connect with the innate pulsation of the universe. And who's to say that that's not your breath? Generally, it's the pulsation of your universe. And those of you that have practiced with me before, I'll cue you all through it. You all are doing the work. I'm just doing the cueing this morning. Feeling free to stay in your triangle or moving towards half moon. As hand comes back to the hip, we take that left hand, we step the back foot in. Again, you want to set your base here, so you've got 2 feet on the floor, you've got one hand on the floor. Slowly shifting weight into foot and hand as you lift the back foot. From here, either keeping hand on hip or stretching hand high to the sky. And then again, either looking down, very grounding, good place to work, off to the horizon, a little less grounding, a little more liberating, or up to the sky, less grounded, but fully liberated, really challenging your balance. And again, as we hold the half moon, finding your center of balance as you breathe in and as you breathe out. From that center of balance, getting bigger in space as we connect from the center of your universe to the periphery of your universe. And always breathing, watching that breath, and enjoying your reflection upon that breath. So the transitions are important. There's no need to rush, so take time to come out, moving slowly, moving not cautiously, but with grace, say, moving gracefully. Top hand, if it left the hip, comes back to the hip. We bend the standing leg. Now we want to ground that back foot. Hand stays down. We shift weight into 2 feet away from that front hand. From that foundation, we come back up to our warrior 2 shape. And from warrior 2 shape, a big windmill of the arms. As we find low lunge, spinning back heel up. And from low lunge, back to down dog, as you will, either cycling through vinyasa or just stretching straight back. Again, follow your breath, find your flow. And again, you can hold that down dog. It's a great place to hang out. When you've been in it more than a few times, it becomes a place of ease. I know that when I first started, it was not a place of ease. If it's still not a place of ease for you, or even if you just want to take a break, of course, that child's pose is a great place to go. Sits bones back to the heels, either working the arms in extension or maybe finding a cross of the forearms and just letting your forehead be super, super heavy on those crossed forearms. From our down dog shape, I'll invite everyone to find a child's pose, and I'll get there with you as I will. Sits bones back to the heels, either working arms in extension or finding that cross of the forearms. If cross of the forearms is still not low enough, another option might be a pair of soft fists. From this place, let's come to a kneeling hero pose as we connect the inner knees sitting on our feet. Palms find the thighs. Now, if this is too much for your knees, this amount of compression, you could always sit up and take the weight of the body out of the equation. If it's cool on your knees, I really love the way this stretches out the top of my foot. So you can see my feet are unfurled here, so the tops of the toes are down. From here, let's come back to a twist. As we bring one hand by a hip, one hand finds a thigh. Let an inhale, grow your spine tall, and then finding your twist. Either looking forward, off to the side, or over that back shoulder. With every inhale, growing your spine taller. With every exhale, finding a little more twist, even if it's just on an energetic level. Now letting your next inhale bring you through center. We'll ground down through other hand finds other thigh. Let your inhale grow your spine tall, and then finding your twist. Finding a drift to your eye focus that works for your body, either looking forward, off to the side, over that back shoulder. From here, let's let an inhale bring us through center, and let's bring our feet off to one side or the other. I habitually go to the left, so I'm going to go to the right this morning as I examine my patterns of movement. From here, two long legs in front, hands on the floor, and I like to give those legs a little bobble, just working any tension. From here, let's find a seated forward fold, and if that pillow's close by, I'll let you grab the pillow. We'll come up on the pillow, and that's going to help us find that interior tilt we were talking about way back when. So we're right on the edge of the pillow here. And it's almost like your sits bones are a waterfall, waterfalling off the pillow as you find the front of the sits bones, establishing that sense of space in the low back. Coming back to the center of the sits bones, keeping that sense of space. And let's find easy forward fold here as we spider our fingers along our knees. Either keeping neutral spine hinging at the hips, and I'll suggest doing that as long as you can. And when you can't hinge anymore, you can paste those palms onto shins, maybe onto the floor outside the shins. Some of y'all might catch the outside edges of the feet as we round the spine and find a forward fold. Great place to breathe into back heart. In our forward fold, if you rounded the spine, I'll suggest a strong tuck of the chin to stretch out the back of the neck. Keeping that, we can spider our fingers alongside the shin, the floor as we come back to tall spine. From here, let's work Janu Sirsasana. So I'm going to take my right leg, I'm going to bend it, I'm going to bring the sole of the foot onto my thigh. I work it up higher, that's more stretch. If that's not the stretch my knee wants, I'll work it lower. Grounding down through this knee if I can. If it's floating in space, you might grab another pillow or just hang out there. Turning and facing that long straight front leg, I can spider those fingers leading with the heart hinging at the hips and either staying there or pasting the palms down as I round the spine, breathing into my back, breathing into my hip. And then a tuck of the chin as I spider those fingers back in, reclaiming tall spine. From here, I want to be super careful with my knee, so I'm going to bring a hand to each side. I'm going to bring that knee center. The knee joint works really well as a hinge joint. So I'm going to make sure that hinge is squaring front. I'll flex the foot to engage the connective tissue around the knee as I straighten the leg. And just like I did way back when, a hand on each side. Fingers find the back of the knee. And then giving that kneecap a little wiggle. Thank you, connective tissue. Thank you, knee, for all that you do for me. We'll find that Janu Sirsasana, that pose on the second side. I'm going to call it head to big toe pose. I'm not going to big toe this morning. So I'm going to take that left sole of foot, bringing it to a place on my thigh that's appropriate for my knee, that's appropriate for my body. On this side, my hips aren't as open, so my knee floats a little bit in space. I might support it if I had a cushion handy, otherwise I'm not going to worry about it. Turning and facing that straight front leg, leaning with the heart as I spider myself into the asymmetrical forward fold, either staying here in neutral spine or pasting the palms down as I round the spine and breathe into my hips, my back. Feels so good. And then a tuck of the chin as I spider myself back up. A hand on each side of the knee as I bring the knee to center. Flexing the foot as I straighten the leg. And then a little knee therapy here. Why not? A hand on each side. Fingers find the back of the knee. And then I'll give that kneecap a little wiggle. From here, let's move towards Tarasana. So it's kind of like butterfly shape, but the feet are a little bit wider. Let me move a little backwards here so you all can see me a little bit better. So the soles, let me move farther back. My soles are apart here. I've got external rotation, the knees are bent. It's called Tarasana, named after Tara, the Buddhist goddess of compassion. And in any practice, whether it's a yoga practice or not, always being kind to ourselves is a good way to keep ourselves safe. I just thought of a line from a song, sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. You do want to, in certain practices, if you're cycling or weightlifting, definitely, yeah, you want to push yourself. But again, always just not pushing yourself to a place where you hurt yourself. From here, I'm going to turn Tarasana into Kurmasana, the tortoise, as I feed my hands underneath those shins, hinging at the hips, keeping neutral spine as long as I can, and then either staying there or letting the spine round as I move into Kurmasana, the tortoise. There's a mantra that goes with this. I go deep within to find all that I need. I go deep within to find all that I need. I go deep within to find all that I need. From Kurmasana, the tortoise, I'm going to unfeed those hands underneath my shins, reclaiming tall spine. I'm going to close my knees. I'm going to give my legs a bobble, and then I'm not going to demo here. I've got a couple cracked ribs. If I'm flat on my back, they hurt like hell. Those of you at home that don't have that situation, I'm going to allow you to do a long, slow roll down onto your back, one vertebrae at a time. When you get down, arms overhead, big full body breath, pointing fingers and toes, and then sweeping hands by your side as you find you're floating on a cloud pose, your Shavasana, doing whatever else is right and good for you this morning. Those of you at home, feeling free to hold your Shavasana as long as you'd like. For the purposes of this 1 hour online class, I'm going to ring these bells 3 times. Again, feeling free to hold your Shavasana as long as you'd like. For the purposes of this class, those of you flat on the floor, inviting more prana, more life force into your body as you wiggle fingers and toes. Now drawing that life force in towards center as we gently circle wrists and ankles. From this place, I'll invite you to draw one knee at a time in towards your heart as your hands catch your shins. And then flat on your back as you gently use your thighs to massage your center of balance, getting into those hips, getting into your low back. Keeping the knees close in, coming in towards center, just gently rocking yourself from side to side. And then the next time you rock to the right, stretching long through the right arm, rolling onto your side, letting that arm serve as a cushion for your head. I'll invite you to let one breath just sigh out through your mouth. And then pushing into your hands, keeping your shoulders relaxed, your neck relaxed, your face soft, as you come up to a cross-legged sit. As we sit cross-legged on the floor, connected down through two sits bones, neutral spine. I'll invite you to bring your hands onto your knees, pulling back with your hands to sit up a little straighter, a little taller. A slight tuck of the chin as 5 fingers of one hand find the floor. The palm of the other hand faces the sky. Ending our practice as we started, just watching as our breath flows in and as our breath flows out. From this place of breath awareness, I invite you to bring your hands to your heart and bowing as you thank yourselves for practicing yoga. And as we offer our practice out to each other and to the world, the light within me honors and respects the light within you. And in that, we are one. Namaste. Thank you all for practicing with me this morning. My first flow class after the calamity of 2 Friday nights ago. Anyway, things are going real well, and we'll see you all real soon. And yeah, just you can do yoga whenever, wherever. You don't have to be 100%. So enjoying the practice and appreciating the fruits of that practice. And we'll see you all real soon.